Would you look at these gorgeous pink climber rose bushes? Now these are climbers, they don't really climb too bad, but the best part of this is I got these from cuttings that I made off of my friend's mom's rose before she moved out of her house, and they both took, and I just have these glorious, beautiful pink roses, and they're kind of like a spray rose. There's a whole bunch on one stem. I'm just working on getting the nicest of the petals. You can see the ones in the back that are already past the point, but we're going to collect all of these petals and we are going to make some rose water and then some witch hazel infused with rose petals. So I'm just going to work on getting the good ones that I can use clipped off and put into my basket. So now I'm back up on the deck and I am just grabbing a hold of the petals very gently and I'm pulling them off from the center of the rose. I don't really want any of that center pollen or any of those little fragments in my batch if possible. I mean, we're going to strain it out eventually, so it's not really going to matter, but just to have it as clean as possible. And it was almost a shame to pull these off. I wish these little roses would stay exactly like they are looking in the basket. I would literally just display a basket of those in my house. They're so pretty. But of course, within a few hours, they would be all wilty and not looking pretty. So we're just going to continue to fill up the bowl and work on getting the basket emptied. And we're getting closer. Look at all that prettiness. So now we are going into the house and I'm going to dump all of the rose petals that I'm using for the rose water into a large pot. And then we're going to use distilled water. And now you just want to fill it just over the top of the rose petals so they are completely covered. And because they're light, they do like to float a little bit, so I'm just working them down the best that I can. But once we start to slowly cook these, they will start to sink. And you don't want to go real high heat, you don't want to boil. We're just kind of doing a medium low to get them going. And you can see how they're already changing color. That pink is just fading to white as it's doing its magic in there. And by this point we had kind of turned it up to maybe about medium high, 7. We're going to get it just to a quick boil and then we'll turn it back down. Now once it was done, I just took one of my little kitchen strainers and at this point I am just straining out the large fragments. So all of the petals, and then if any of the little fragments from the center of the rose happen to make their way through. And you can see how it's already kind of a little bit of an amber color. It's kind of funny how that light little pink rose can turn a water amber. We're going to get the rest of this dumped into the strainer. And yes, I did scrape the bowl. And then I'm just going to take my scraper and I am going to just gently press as much of this water out as I can. And it actually looks really pretty, doesn't it? So now we are putting a funnel on top of a jar with a coffee filter on top, and then I'm going to filter out the water itself, so any little tiny fragments that passed through from the first strainer will be caught with this coffee filter. And it's kind of funny when it's going through the strainer, through the bottom end, it looks clear, but as soon as it hits the bottom of the jar, that amber color comes back. And other than the time consumingness of picking the petals and from the bush and then picking them all off, It's really a very easy project, and I just put on some good music and enjoyed the whole process, and it was really quite relaxing. Now the rose water, it's really ready right away. So I was just going to put those in the refrigerator, and I use them on my face when I'm ready. And I have my jar and my witch hazel and my little plastic lid. And I'm going to just take my jar and put handfuls of rose petals down into this jar. And I apologize, I forgot my tripod, so I'm trying to hold the camera with one hand while I shove some petals in with my other hand. Luckily it's a wide mouth jar, so it wasn't too awful. But I'm just gonna pack these in. Like, I'll get them up to the top and then I'll take my fingers and I'll press them down. So there is a lot of petals in there. And once I have it full, I will put in my witch hazel. I had 2 open bottles. Why, I don't know. Let me know if you find that you do that too. You open one thing and then you can't find it magically for some reason, and then you open another one. But this was a good way for me to kind of get them all mixed together into one and get them used up. And I'm going to put a few more rose petals on there just to make sure I have it good and full. And then I'm going to take the witch hazel and I'm going to use the rest of it to fill it up over the top. And then I'm going to put my little plastic lid on, and this is going to sit for about 4 weeks, and I just kind of lightly turn it and give it a light little shake every few days, and I keep it in a dark, rather cool cabinet. Now after it had sat for about 4 weeks, I just poured it into my strainer and then took my scraper and then again lightly pressed the witch hazel all out of the petals. And then I saved one of my witch hazel containers so I could reuse it. So I'm just going to put a funnel in there and then pour all of that goodness right back in. And I think maybe because it sat longer than the rose water, this was much deeper of an amber color than the rose water. But now I'm just going to put a lid on this and we will store this in the cabinet, and I will use this and the rose water to cleanse my face and tone it after I take my showers. So I just wanted to give you a little peek of what the rose bush is looking like now. It's mostly done. I have a few little stragglers here and there, and it is now loaded with rose hips. Even though I cut a lot of petals off, I have a lot of rose hips to go. So that's it for this week. Just want to thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time.